Welcome to our PHI Consent Tool video series funded by the Michigan Health Endowment Fund. These videos were developed to help you understand the laws and best practices for sharing protected health information, or PHI. This video and the PHI Consent Tool have been prepared for educational purposes only. Nothing presented here or in the tool is intended as, nor should be relied upon as legal advice. Any party that is contemplating the use or disclosure of protected health information, or PHI, for any purpose is encouraged to consult with its legal counsel. The word consent is used frequently and is meant to refer to an individual's permission to share their PHI, rather than permission for treatment. While the term PHI generally relates to the federal law HIPAA, or the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, we use PHI to address all health information that is protected by both state and federal law. This presentation was developed in conjunction with the PHI Consent Tool, an alternative resource to help clinicians, payers, and others navigate the laws and regulations around when consent is necessary to share PHI. In this video, we aim to help you understand the regulations around sharing PHI when it comes to domestic violence. While sharing health information among clinicians has many benefits, it may also present safety risks for individuals who have experienced domestic abuse, sexual assault, stalking, or other crimes, whether the abuse is punishable as a crime or not. It is important to understand and consider these risks and the implications for sharing this type of PHI. There are 3 federal laws that cover domestic violence. The Family Violence Prevention and Services Act, also known as FVPSA, the Victims of Crime Act of 1984, also known as VOCA, and the Violence Against Women Act of 1994, also known as VAWA. Please note, VAWA expired in February 2019. A bill to reauthorize the law stalled in the Senate in late 2019 after passing in the House. If you receive federal funding under one of the 3 laws, FVPSA, VOCA, or VAWA, and you have provided an individual with services for domestic abuse, sexual assault, stalking, or other crimes, you must obtain the individual's written consent to release information about behavioral health services or referrals for treatment for substance use disorder, or SUD, unless the disclosure falls under any of the following 7 statutory exceptions: for medical emergencies, for specific court orders, for mandatory reporting, in duty to warn situations, when it has been de-identified for research, for financial audits, or for program evaluations. For the research, financial audits, and program evaluation exceptions, the subject of the information must be de-identified. However, there are 2 exceptions when this may not be required: when the identification is essential to achieve the purpose for which the information is being sought, or if preventing the identification would clearly be impractical. Please note, if the subject of the information is likely to be harmed by the identification, these exceptions do not apply. If you receive federal funding under FVPSA, VOCA, and/or VAWA, and you are asking for written consent to share PHI in domestic abuse situations, you should not use the Michigan Behavioral Health Standard Consent Form, also known as MDHHS 5515. Instead, you need to use a specialized consent form, which is designed to address the heightened safety and privacy concerns of an individual experiencing domestic abuse. The National Network to End Domestic Violence, or NNEDV, has developed sample client-limited release of information forms for federal grantees that can be used in these situations. If you do not receive federal funding to treat victims, and you have provided an individual with services for domestic abuse, sexual assault, stalking, or other crimes, your decision to use a standardized consent form, such as MDHHS 5515, or a specialized consent form, such as those from NNEDV, should be informed by a discussion with the individual you are serving about the potential risks and benefits of information sharing. Keep in mind that standard consent forms may not address the heightened safety and privacy concerns that those individuals may have. If you are seeking health information from another clinician about an individual who has experienced domestic abuse, sexual assault, stalking, or other crimes, you should discuss the potential risks of information sharing with that clinician and the individual before asking him or her to complete a consent form. In regard to individuals who have experienced domestic abuse, it is preferable to have the clinician who provided the services obtain the individual's consent, regardless of that clinician's source of funding, because they can better address the safety and privacy concerns of that individual. To recap, there are 3 federal laws that cover domestic violence: Family Violence Prevention and Services Act, FVPSA, Victims of Crime Act, VOCA, and Violence Against Women Act, VAWA. If you receive federal funding under one of these domestic violence laws and you have provided someone with services for domestic abuse, you must obtain the individual's written consent to release information about behavioral health services or referrals for SUD treatment unless the disclosure falls under any of the 7 statutory exceptions. If you receive funding under the 3 federal laws, you must use a specialized consent form. If you do not receive this funding, you may use MDHHS 5515, but be aware of an individual's heightened safety and privacy concerns. You can find NNEDV sample consent forms at techsafety.org/confidentiality-templates. You can find the MDHHS 5515 consent form at www.michigan.gov/bhconsent and learn more about sharing the PHI of individuals who have experienced domestic abuse by clicking FAQs at the top of the screen. You can learn more information about sharing PHI in the state of Michigan with the PHI Consent Tool and companion documents found at www.michigan.gov/PHI Consent Tool. You can email us anytime at mi.consent.help@alterum.org. Thank you.